Welcome to Health Hijacked. This isn't just a video series, it's the alarm you were never supposed to hear. Because while you were doing what you were told, trusting the experts, eating what was sold as good for you, taking what was prescribed, your health was being traded for someone else's profit. And it wasn't an accident, it was the plan. They put wall cleaner in cereal, industrial waste in your water, mercury in your mouth, and fear in your mind, and they called it care. This series isn't here to coddle you. It's here to wake you up, not to judge, not to shame, but to show you what they hoped you'd never question. You're not broken, you're not alone, and you're not powerless. You've just been living in a system that profits when you stay sick. But the second you see it, you're free to leave it. And that's where we begin. You weren't born to eat chemicals, but you were fed them anyway. In the colors that made your cereal look fun. In the crunch that made lunch feel exciting. In the shiny whiteness of what should have never been white. They told you it was food, but it was a formula, engineered for shelf life, not your life. And the worst part? It came from brands you trusted, from mascots you grew up loving, from logos that smiled at you on the shelf while slipping poison into your bowl. And yes, if you follow the money far enough, you'll find them. The same dynasties that financed war, manipulated economies, and privatized nature itself now hold a stake in your bloodstream. And are we supposed to trust that? I don't think so. This is where Health Hijacked begins. Not in the hospital, not in the pharmacy, but in the grocery store, where the betrayal became impossible to ignore. The boxes were colorful, the slogans were comforting, the brands were trusted, but the ingredients? They were never made for human health. They were engineered for crunch, for color, for cost, not for nourishment. Certainly not for you. We didn't create this series to scare you. We created it to wake you up, because this isn't just about food. It's about freedom. You, me, everyone have been sold chemicals disguised as nourishment, addiction disguised as nutrition, and silence disguised as science. But you're not crazy for asking questions. You're not alone for noticing something feels off. And you're not powerless to do something about it. That's why Health Hijacked exists. To help you remember what real health is. To challenge what you've been taught to accept. To offer truth where the system sold silence. Read the labels. Look up the chemicals yourself. Dig deep, then feel proud that you did. The information is out there and it's free. Healthcare isn't, confusion isn't, dependence isn't, but the truth can be shared. So if this series makes you think, share it. If it makes you angry, dig deeper. If it makes you remember something real, you're not alone. This was just the first step. You've been hijacked, but now you're taking your power back. And this is just the beginning of reclaiming what was always yours. Health, truth, and the power to choose differently. And this was just your first bite. Let's keep it going. Appeal, the produce you can't wash. They said it was just a coating, just a preservative, just a little, innovation. But what they didn't say is that it doesn't come off, and you don't get to say no. Appeal is a synthetic coating backed by Bill Gates used on fruits and vegetables to extend shelf life. It's marketed as natural, but the truth isn't so clean. It's made from mono and diglycerides, substances previously tested for industrial and manufacturing use. You can't scrub it off, you can't peel it away, and the packaging rarely tells you it's there. Here's what you're not told. Appeal may contain residue from solvents used in processing. There's no long-term safety data for consumption, especially for children. It's already been found on organic produce, depending on the supply chain. And it's not required to be labeled on every piece of fruit. Wait, what? This isn't about preserving food. It's about preserving profit. And the more disconnected you are from your food source, the easier it is to sell you something that looks like nature, but isn't. So what now? Well, you can't change the food system overnight, but you can stop feeding it. Here's where you start. Read the label every time, especially anything ending in phosphate. And check for coatings like Appeal. Reclaim real food. Buy local. Know your farmer, wash your produce, peel it when you're unsure. Reject the brands still poisoning shelves. Ask questions like, why is Bill Gates buying up the farmlands? Their language says family. Their ingredients say otherwise. Speak up, loudly, proudly, and often. Most people don't know, not because they're ignorant, because they've been exhausted and distracted. All part of the plan. Teach your kids. They deserve better than chemicals engineered to mimic flavor. They deserve real nourishment. You've been hijacked, but not defeated. You're not late. You're just waking up. Maybe you ate it this morning. Maybe your child did. You weren't careless. You were misled. They built a food system that looks like health. It feels like tradition. It tastes like childhood. But behind the packaging is something else entirely. And now, you're asking the questions they hoped you never would, because this isn't conspiracy, it's commerce. And once you see it, really see it, you don't go back to sleep, you read, you ask, you stop buying lies, and this was just your second bite. The poison isn't hidden. It's pumped through your pipes. It's in your mouth, in your water, in the rinse they swish at your child's school. They said it was for your teeth. But the science says otherwise. What they're calling fluoride is a byproduct of industry, scraped from smokestacks and funneled into municipal water. What they're calling silver fillings are actually mercury bombs sealed into millions of mouths, still leaching metal into the bloodstream. They knew, and they still know, but it was cheaper to poison you than to tell the truth. And now, the lie is locked behind your smile. This is poison in plain sight. Fluoride, the industrial waste in your water, started as a disposal problem, not a dental solution. In the 1940s, aluminum and phosphate fertilizer plants were producing a toxic byproduct called fluorosilicic acid. Corrosive, hazardous, dangerous to inhale, let alone ingest. Disposal was expensive, regulation was coming, but someone saw an opportunity. They always do. With the right rebrand and a few industry-funded studies, this industrial waste could be sold to cities as a dental miracle. Thus began one of the longest-running public health cons in modern history. Mass water fluoridation. What's really in your tap water? You weren't given pharmaceutical-grade fluoride, you were given fluorosilicic acid, a cocktail of industrial waste diluted and dumped into public water under the banner of dental health. It's often contaminated with arsenic, lead, heavy metals, and according to the National Research Council, prolonged fluoride exposure is linked to reduced IQ in children, endocrine disruption, especially thyroid function, skeletal fluorosis, which means bone weakening and joint pain, and neurotoxicity. And yet, nearly 70% of Americans drink fluoridated water daily. You didn't consent, you weren't warned, and if you resist, you're labeled anti-science. Mercury fillings are a ticking time bomb in your mouth. They called them silver fillings, but silver is just the shine. The truth is darker, heavier. These dental fillings are made with over 50% mercury, one of the most toxic substances on Earth. They told you it was stable, that it didn't leak. But when you chew, grind, or sip something hot, mercury vapor is released, absorbed through soft tissue, transferred directly into your bloodstream, crossing into your brain, lodging in fat and nerve tissue. And it doesn't just leave. They forgot to tell you this part. What mercury does to the body. Cognitive decline, chronic fatigue, immune dysfunction, thyroid disruption, mood swings, memory problems, depression, hormonal imbalance. And yet, millions of mouths are still filled with mercury. Why? Because it's cheap, it's easy to place, and it lasts a long time. Long enough for no one to connect the symptoms. It's the cover-up culture. Protect the profession, not the patient. The dental industry knew, not all at once, but they knew, and they made a choice. Protect the profession, protect the image, protect the liability. The American Dental Association spent decades lying to us, denying mercury vapor risk, threatening dentists who spoke out, calling critics mercury hysterics, lobbying against safe alternatives, taking money from amalgam producers. Even today, they call it safe and effective, while quietly recommending something else for pregnant women and children. That's not medicine. That's management. The gag orders were real dentists who tried to speak the truth faced licensing threats, professional exile, suppressed research, insurance discrimination, legal retaliation. The message was clear. Don't question the standard of care, even if it's toxic. What you can do, reclaim your body. You didn't ask for mercury in your mouth. You didn't agree to fluoride in your water. But now you know. And knowing is leverage. Number 1, filter your water. Most filters don't remove fluoride. Use reverse osmosis, a Berkey with fluoride filters, or activated alumina systems. Number 2, find a mercury-safe dentist. Don't just get fillings removed, do it safely. Look for SMART Protocol or IAOMT-certified dentists. Ask about detox support. Number 3, get support from Natural Detox. Eat sulfur-rich foods such as garlic, onions, and broccoli. Use binders under guidance such as activated charcoal or chlorella. Sweat regularly. Stay hydrated with clean water. Teach your kids to question normal. Let them see what you never saw. Let them ask, why would we put poison in our mouths and call it care? Because if they don't learn from you, they'll be sold something else. They told you it was care. The rinse at the school sink, the bright smile in the mirror, the dentist with the white coat. But what they put in your water, what they sealed into your teeth, was never about health. It was about habit. It was about cost. It was about control. And when the science changed, the system didn't. Because to admit the truth meant admitting they poisoned you. So they stayed silent. On mercury, on fluoride, on the truth, but silence doesn't heal. And now you're not silent anymore. You're awake. And once you see the poison in plain sight, you don't keep drinking it. You spit it out and you start to heal. The great sunlight scam, how they demonized nature to sell you products. Sunlight wasn't just warmth, it was instruction. It told your body what season it was, when to rest, when to rise. You didn't need a prescription for it, you just needed to go outside. But somewhere along the way, we stopped. We stayed inside. We worked under fluorescent lights, we feared the sun, we covered up, we lost track of the sky, and now, most of us are running on empty. A silent epidemic. Over 40% of US adults are vitamin D deficient. That number skyrockets in people with darker skin. Deficiency is linked to autoimmune disease, mood disorders, fatigue, hormonal imbalance, bone loss, even higher risk of respiratory infection. But instead of walking outside, we were given fortified cereal, multivitamins, synthetic pills, screen time and stay home slogans. They told you the sun was dangerous. Then, they sold you a supplement. They replaced biology with inventory and called it modern health. The truth? You were designed to receive light. When you step into natural sunlight, your body creates vitamin D, releases serotonin, produces melatonin later for better sleep, generates nitric oxide, which lowers blood pressure, reconnects your nervous system to natural rhythm. And no pill does all that. The sun was never your enemy. It was your original healer. But they couldn't patent it, so they made you fear it. What's in your sunscreen? The chemicals in many commercial sunscreens are now shown to disrupt hormones, especially in children and pregnant women, contain oxybenzone, banned in multiple countries for reef damage and toxicity, block UVA, UVB and your skin's ability to make vitamin D, enter your bloodstream within hours of application. And when you block the sun's natural spectrum, you block biology, you block healing, you block life. They didn't just sell you sunscreen. They sold you fear of the sun. And when you fear the light, you stop looking for the truth. Then they sold you the substitute. Instead of recommending 20 minutes of daily sunlight, they gave you pills, fortified cereals, synthetic D2, which is far less effective than natural D3, and pharmaceutical-grade solutions that never address the real causa. They replace sunlight with supplements, nature with inventory, and they called it progress. But progress shouldn't make you weaker, it shouldn't make you dependent, and it shouldn't come in a child-proof bottle. This isn't just a deficiency, it's a design. We've reached a point where YouTube beauty gurus proudly say they lather on sunscreen several times a day. Rain or shine, whether indoors or out, not because the science says to, but because the fear pays better. And more often than not, they're selling the very thing they're warning you about. Priceless. They told you fat was the enemy, that it clogged your arteries, that it makes you slow, heavy, unhealthy, that it would kill you if you didn't cut it out. So you switched to low fat, to fat-free, to heart-healthy cereals, yogurts, and snack bars. And what did they add back in? Sugar, starch, artificial flavor, synthetic vitamins, and shelf-stable chemicals. Heart disease got worse, obesity skyrocketed, and mental health nosedived. But profits? They surged because this was never about health. It was about control through confusion. They made you afraid of fat so they could sell you a diet of lies. And it worked. And here's the great nutrition lie that changed the world. It all started with a man named Ansel Keys, a researcher with a theory that dietary fat caused heart disease. He cherry-picked data from only 6 of 22 countries to make fat look guilty and sugar look innocent. And Big Food loved it. The Sugar Research Foundation quietly funded scientists to downplay sugar's role in disease and shift the blame to fat. Journals published it. The press echoed it. Of course they did. And overnight, low-fat became healthy. The shelves filled with fat-free everything: cereal, yogurt, snacks, frozen meals. But to make it taste like anything, they pumped in sugar, starches, synthetic flavorings, and preservatives. The result? Obesity exploded. Type 2 diabetes skyrocketed. Depression and fatigue became the norm. And no one questioned the low-fat lie because everyone was eating it. The food pyramid was a marketing plan. They taught it in schools, printed it on posters, pushed it through government campaigns. The food pyramid looked like science, but it was built by lobbyists. At the base, refined grains, processed carbs, starchy fillers. Right in the middle, low-fat dairy, lean meats, everything moderate. And at the top, you got it, the very thing you were told to fear: fats, natural oils, full-fat yogurt, eggs, avocados, butter, the very foods your ancestors thrived on. Why? Because sugar doesn't spoil. Grains are cheap to produce, and shelf-stable carbs make corporate inventory simple. It wasn't about your heart, it was about their bottom line. They didn't teach you how to nourish your body. They taught you how to support big ag, big pharma, and big processed food. They made you fear the foods that heal and trust the ones that harm. Reclaiming real food, what fat really does. They told you fat would clog your arteries, but they didn't tell you it builds your brain. They told you it would make you sick, but they didn't tell you it fuels your hormones, cells, and nervous system. They told you to fear it so you'd keep buying what they made instead. But the truth? Your brain is over 60% fat. Your hormones are synthesized from fat. Fat is critical for nutrient absorption, immune regulation, and mood stability. You weren't meant to count grams. You were meant to feel alive. Real food doesn't need a label. It doesn't need a mascot. It doesn't need to be fortified, flavored, dyed, or preserved. It grows, it spoils, it nourishes, and your body knows the difference. They made you fear the most foundational foods, so they could sell you a processed plan in a plastic wrapper. But now, you're waking up hungry, not for fake flavor or false comfort, but for truth, for clarity, for food that actually feeds you. They told you health came in a pill, wrapped in a warning label, priced by a patent. But before pharmaceuticals, before wellness brands, before diagnosis as identity, there was the earth. We used to walk barefoot. We used to touch soil without fear. We used to feel the pulse of the ground beneath us. We called it normal. Now we're insulated. Shoes, concrete, screens, signals. We're grounded to nothing. And they wonder why we're anxious, why we're inflamed, why we can't sleep, why the world feels electric and exhausting. There's a science to this. They just won't advertise it. Touching the earth with bare skin balances your nervous system. It reduces inflammation. It regulates cortisol. It softens trauma without a prescription. But you can't trademark GRAS. You can't bill the FDA for walking barefoot. So they mocked it. That's what they do. They brushed it off and hid the studies. Because grounding doesn't sell anything. It just works. This is your reminder. The real cure was never synthetic. It was sensory. It was primal. It was right beneath you. Go outside, take your shoes off, touch the ground, feel the world push back gently. Not with force, but with rhythm. The earth is still there, still healing, still humming, still offering what no pill can promise: presence, regulation, and return. They told you healing was a pill, that you needed fixing, that you were too broken, too far gone, too late. But the truth is, you were never missing the cure. You were always the cure.